Hello everyone, June the 7th. Can you feel the heat of transformation? We're in the middle of it. It's really intense. I guess we all feel it in our very personal ways. We are pushed through experiences, revelations, and understandings which are definitely challenging each one of us in our own ways. This was foreseeable, that this was really the peak so far. I mean, we are pushing ever higher. It's like climbing Mount Everest. Just want to show you this one. This is the X-ray pulse of the sun pulsing us. You see, since June the 1st there was an X-flare here, since actually two X-flares on June the 1st, and since every day we had at least a medium M3 or so X-ray flare, which means really the planet is being charged up. Each of us is being charged up, as we are definitely part of this geomagnetic field. We are plugged into it. We are definitely a cell, an atom, if you want, in this way bigger structure of Earth as one planet. So naturally we are totally affected by that. So just this was published on the space weather page yesterday. The highest sunspot numbers in 22 years. The average sunspot number for May 24 was 172. That is the highest value in 22 years. And June could be even higher at 200 averaging, and that's what it looks. That could be the highest since December 2001. You see, we are really in a extreme evolutionary momentum. That's what the Russian scientist Zhijevsky already found in the early 20th century when he studied big shift changes globally, societally, economically. It always coincided with these moments when the sun had its maximum, when the solar surface was convoluted, full of extreme magnetic fields which would erupt. So it is really a time of readjustment, I guess would be one of the best words, of really pushing it and going through that turmoil. And interesting, I found too, this was another one yesterday published, that nova will explode this summer most likely. Now this is a really interesting start. Just 2 minutes on this, because it really is a good story. So every 80 years, it's a binary system which is 3,000 light years away from Earth, and it consists of a white dwarf orbiting an ancient red giant. Hydrogen from the red giant is being pulled down onto the surface of the white dwarf, and it takes about 80 years to accumulate this towards a critical mass, which eventually will trigger in a huge nova-like thermonuclear explosion. And the last time this happened was in 1946. And yes, there is historical records on this regularity. It goes back to the 12th century. I found out, actually I did a little research, but anyway, this is the thing is that the light curve dips when these, let me see, I had a link open here. Yeah, this is from Wikipedia on this T Coronae Borealis at 21 degrees Scorpio. I looked it up yesterday. I found that super interesting. That's where I guess I still have it open here on my screen. No. Anyway, so this is a possibility that we see a supernova which could be as bright as a bright star for weeks on end anytime soon. So these are always super powerful evolutionary markers too. That's a whole research in itself, which I did at some point, and I might get back to that at some point again and share more of it with you. But let's go back to the subject we are on right now, which is the extreme solar activity of our star. So, not even speaking of the other stars. Anyway, so the long story short, new moon yesterday had the black moon on the ascendant. Yes, it will get intense. That is a very clear sign of that in hexagram 6, which is conflict, which is the friction which is necessary for evolution to proceed. It's kind of that ability to push off from a point and leap ahead. Friction is necessary to give us the intensity we need. It is, I mean, it's everything is perfect. I guess it really has to be said at some point. Even all the imperfections, all the problems, all the difficulties which are thrown our way are very exactly tailored to our needs, to activate, to trigger, to bring forth a certain experience which then yields into a certain wisdom. So it's all making sense, and yes, it is hard to see in the moment, but in retrospect it's always easy. We can trace the path and see that we had to have these experiences to come to a particular insight, and also humility. This is part of it, to really rub off all that which we all have, kind of that egotistical me being special, better, whatnot. All of these experiences are necessary in order to bring us to that place where we are humble and open and receptive to the great gift we get all the time with life. It's a miracle in itself. So everything really is a miracle. I guess Albert Einstein even said that. Okay, now let's get into the astrology, because it is so super exciting. We're heading into a period in these next 3-4 weeks of real intense solar activity, I would say, the least. But let's first look at what just happened yesterday to build the story here a little bit. So the day before new moon, we had that Hygeia Chiron conjunction, and then the heliocentric Jupiter Gemini ingress, two really important events. Interesting that these two events had their horizon axis in exact T-square. You see the four fixed signs here in the 8th degree. Anyway, this is just showing you how these events are interlinking their energies with each other. And then we had that big solar flare right in between the two events at 3:06 p.m. Here it is again. That was this one here, 6.1. Yes, we had since another one, but that was the biggest one since the X flares. And you have to think of that, this is a logarithmic scale, so if you have an M6 flares, that is 20, let me say that right, each number is 10 times more. So M6 is 10 times more than M5, so that's kind of how you read this scale. Just saying, it was a big event, and I kind of expected that we would have a big flare yesterday as it has been really pretty much the rule each time on a day with important energetic shifts, planets having exact aspects, changing signs and such, that they were accompanied by a big solar flare. And it is always interesting then to see how these random events, which are not literally the exact moment when these aspects are exact, but kind of that random moment which is thrown in. And here you see that's why I'm so excited that Chiron Hygeia conjunction just a little bit past the exact time. You see 22:29 versus 22:39, so Hygeia has passed by 10 minutes of arc already. As you see, if we go back, this is 3:06 p.m. and if we go back to this chart once more, that was short before midnight the day before, so some 20 hours. But short after that solar flare, we had the heliocentric Jupiter ingress. Okay, and then I wanted to illustrate that. Interesting too that this particular flare went off at the I calculated it towards 0 Aquarius. This is Earth, and it was 43 degrees on the western side of us, looking straight at the sun. If you look at the sun, and that's how it's done, it's the head-on point is 0 degrees naturally, and then you calculate towards the west where the sunspots are moving towards, in that sense setting. So 43 degrees ahead brings us to 0 degrees Aquarius, where Pluto sits, and here at the midnight point when the flare was exact. I mean, it's obvious some big transformation beyond the scope of what we have seen before is on its way, and it is heading towards the 14th. The 14th is a really, really big day. Why? Yes, why? It's the exact Jupiter-Pluto trine in heliocentric astrology. Here you have it. Now let me explain, and that's why I have here the Carrington flare on the side, because the similarity is just stunning. So let me just first go back to the Carrington flare once more. You have to watch that other video too, which gives you all the details a little bit more in explained. Here I'm just reiterating quickly. So the main structure again is the Jupiter, Earth, Pluto structure. You see it here. Pluto is exactly in the midpoint of Jupiter and Earth. Earth here in conjunction with Aries. Aries is the one which shakes things, which has no remorse in rattling a situation up. And this event of 1859 really was the warning shot. That's kind of what I have come to understand. It was actually on the 55th birthday of Juno's discovery. Juno is the asteroid which also is highlighted in the chart as such. You see, let me just go to the geocentric one. There is a Moon Juno conjunction on that day. Why Juno? Well, Juno is about working together as a team, bringing us together to resolve an issue, to find out what is necessary to each bring in her personal experience, skill. That's kind of the picture. It is that cooperation, a very important word for Juno. So this Carrington event naturally has made us aware that in order to overcome such a extreme event, we have to work together, and I guess many people are definitely aware of the magnitude of what can happen up to a M1000 flare. X1000 flare is definitely recorded in history. That was one of my latest videos too, where I give you a link to Ben Robinson's solar suspicious observers. You go there, please. There you get the video. Anyway, the estimation is that the 1859 event, which set telegraph wires on fire, which created such powerful earth currents that flames would shoot out of the transfer stations for telegraph and such. It was 3 days auroras into the tropical latitudes. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of really interesting alignments. Let me just name out a few. So yes, the Jupiter-Pluto Earth configuration here with the moon on the other side. Let's go back to the heliocentric here for a start, because this is really how the sun is charged up. Chiron and Eris here at the root of the chart, together with Pallas, again triggering that awareness of what is possible. Then another interesting little snippet in the Mayan calendar. September 1st, 1859 is the blue galactic monkey. The monkey always is up for some magic, unexpected events. Which was the same signature. The galactic monkey is also the signature of Spring Equinox 2024, and also Julian Assange was born on that day, so you kind of can see where this energy is going. Then if we go to the geocentric perspective, I just want to really show you what is needed to create such a strong event. We have Mercury and Venus here conjunct. Now this is the geocentric chart, that's how we experience it, and it is interesting, the first degrees of Virgo retrograde Mercury. Yes, this is definitely putting us onto the spot and saying, well, you better look a little closer what has happened here, what particularly as we have moved in that direction of technological dependency. I guess you see where I'm going with this. Jupiter is unaspected in this chart, the wild card energy. Jupiter, yes, the one which magnifies everything, which we see in the heliocentric here in this perfect configuration. So as seen from Earth, it plays out as a real wild card, and there's a septile, actually 1/7 of a circle between Sun and Jupiter, and a 3 septile to the black moon and Pallas. Now this definitely wraps the event up, something which really shook us in an unexpected way as humans. And then naturally the node with Chiron. Now let's go to the 14th of June, and why I think there is some big similarity there. Well, first of all, naturally it is the Jupiter-Pluto trine and Mars exactly in between. Well, that is definitely activating these two planets, and Mars actually changing signs from Pisces into Aries on that very day. So let's just first do the quick lineup here of events, so you see that this is not an isolated event. This plays into a bigger harmony, into a bigger chord. So at 5:18 in the morning of June 14, the Sun and the Moon are exactly in 90-degree aspect. You see it. And then at 5:56, heliocentric, Venus changes signs into 0 Cancer. Very big shifts with Venus and Mars, and Venus-Mars are in a square aspect. So in the morning before 6, Venus will change into cardinal water. Beautiful energy of holding the heart's frequency is definitely expanding with Venus in Cancer. It is love. We share that abundance, that beauty of being loved by existence, and whatever will happen is definitely along that line with Vesta rising. Yet this is a spiritual event we are looking at. Again, we have Chiron and Eris, which we saw before in the Carrington chart. Here it is again. Here it was at the bottom of the chart, here it's at the top. Now, I'm not saying that the big solar event will happen exactly on this day of the 14th. It could well be, but this is definitely a marker. It could be before or after. Actually, the window of Jupiter and Pluto in this 120-degree aspect as seen from Earth, it was exactly on the 3rd of June, and as seen from the Sun, it will be exactly on the 14th. So in this window for sure, and I mean it's no surprise. I knew this would be a very, very intense phase in solar activity. I said it, I know. So what else do we see in this chart which is exceptional? Well, I just started you with with the events of that day. Let's see. So we have as I said, the waxing half moon, the moon 90 degrees ahead of the Sun. This is the most powerful of the 4 lunar stations. The waxing square is physically active, making things happen. It's running up the mountain. That's kind of the picture you have when you look at the waxing quarter moon. Super activating, which basically is Aries Cancer energy, the waxing half moon. And it is interesting that Mars and Venus are changing into these 2 signs on that day. So at 5:18 the waxing moon, 5:56 a.m. Venus heliocentric into Cancer, 7:50 a.m. we have the exact Jupiter-Pluto trine heliocentric, then let's keep going. What else is hiding here? So the moon at its farthest place from Earth, very important moment in the month, always. This is always usually a more critical time of collective anxiety, you could say. It's kind of, the moon is so far away, it gives you the feeling that we lose it. I guess that's how one could see it. Gets drawn ever farther into space, and then comes the turning point, and the whole lunar orbit is redefined in a way, because this is really the axis of its elliptical motion. So this is a super important day for the moon. And then at 2:50 in the afternoon, so that was at 1:37, and at 2:50 in the afternoon, Mars is changing into Aries, now making this structure even more potent, this trine with the sextile in between. And interesting that Neptune is here too. So it is, Neptune is invisible in a way, so it is an invisible energy, and naturally that's what the radiation is. Neptune is related to strong radiation events, something we cannot directly see or detect, but it's definitely there. And then well, I could say so many things about this chart. Just look here at Aries at the 7th house cusp, again the one which really has no remorse with, well, to be nice, to just pretend and pamper people's feelings. No, not at all. Aries is to the point, very radical, and it's a feminine energy too, so it is coming along with that grace and beauty in a way. Then okay, let's see what else is hiding here. So that's a geocentric chart when heliocentric Mars enters Aries. Look at this. I mean, it's uncanny. The moon here, pretty dead on exact, the black moon. Now the black moon is the median of where the moon is farthest away from Earth, because the moon's orbit is extremely complex. It's actually is in a constant resonance around this point, which is the mean lunar apogee. It's kind of that axis around which the moon's orbit is dancing. Whereas earlier in the day, as we have here in this chart, that was when the moon was most exactly farthest from Earth. So, however, it is also interesting that these 2 points are very close together on this day. They can actually vary by almost 40 degrees, swing in either direction. The median can be here, for example, in the 29th degree of Virgo, and the apogee, the real apogee, can be as far away as 40 degrees on either side. So the fact that this is a central hit in a way makes this even more strong, that this harbors for a powerful emotional experience too, something rather of a more difficult nature. And to have this energy at the ingress of Mars into Aries and Venus into Cancer, activating that cardinal square. This is creation in its rawest form. And then, I mean, it's not over yet. At 4:32 in the afternoon, the Sun and Mercury have their superior conjunction, which means from Earth's perspective, Mercury is exactly behind the Sun. That is the culmination of the Sun, Earth, Mercury cycle, turning Mercury into an evening star as well. Mercury has been morning star for the last 2 months, still is into the 14th. And as you know, Venus just became morning star the other day on the 4th of June. Turning from morning to evening star. That's what it is. Both of them within a 10-day window. That's also interesting. The morning star quality is more personal, whereas the evening star way Venus and Mercury express is more social, caring for the bigger picture, for our surroundings, from me to you, kind of. That's the morning star, evening star in a nutshell change. And also it is naturally then laying the foundations for the whole next 2 months period of how Mercury will express. Interesting that the 25th degree and the Sabian symbols is pruning, cutting something back to which has gone out of shape, which has gone wild, literally. So it is a putting something back into its place energy. Also in the I Ching, this is hexagram 12, standstill. We are just approaching the summer solstice point. The Sun is, yes, ever going higher up, but it is coming to a standstill eventually, to then draw back, come back to the south, so to say, culminating over the northern hemisphere. So it is that moment of standstill, very well captured. Standstill means, yes, literally things are coming to a halt. And it is the second line of that hexagram. I actually wanted to show you this quickly because it really makes lots of sense. So Earth is below, heavens is above. It's everything is pulling in opposite directions. Then interesting is though that Earth will be on the other side naturally, and let me quickly show you this. So this is 12, this is standstill, and on the other side is 11, which is peace. That's where Earth will be. So standstill brings peace. Well, you can contemplate on that one. Okay, I guess I made you aware that the 14th is definitely a day to mark on the calendar, and be very aware and cautious. That's actually one of the warnings in the second line of the I Ching. I wanted to read that. I'm just going It's way too many things I have in my head, and I can't really put them in all in that short time frame I wish. Anyway, it is the this is not the one I want to talk about here. It is, that is hexagram 6, hexagram 12. Now it is the second line where Sun and Mercury will meet. And again, if you're interested in breakdown of the zodiac into these degrees, go to under the video in the description is always the link to my page, which breaks it down. It's based on the human design systems take on the zodiac. Real expansion of astrology. So the 6th, actually I have it open down here, open here. 6 in the second place, they bear and endure. This means good fortune for inferior people. The standstill serves to help the great man to attain success. Inferior people are ready to flatter their superiors in a servile way. They would also endure the superior man if he would put an end to their confusion. Okay, that is interesting. It's really describing the world situation as we have it. Is that not ever really capturing it? And that openness to be led out of the confusion by a new impulse is really critical here. This is fortunate for them. But the great man calmly bears the consequences of the standstill. This also means that we are ready to bear the consequences. We who are aware of what is happening in the bigger picture, we can definitely empathize with what is here named as the great man. It is the energy which holds the space, which allows things to manifest, and it's really that collective desire to bring change on this planet. This is what I would see as expressed by this great man allegory, because the I Ching naturally is speaking an allegory. We have to kind of to translate it, but it's also dead on exact. Many times has been, and I wouldn't be surprised if it were again. So you get the picture. This is a warning and also a preparation that we are moving into a very, very interesting window of time. Just let's look at this Sun-Mercury superior conjunction. I guess this is in the end the essence, that is our perception is being pictured in this chart with the void of course moon. Yes, still in narrow conjunction with the black moon in hexagram 6. It is actually interesting that the line the Sun and Mercury meet, the second line of hexagram 12, is evolving into hexagram 6, which is conflict. And it is a void of course moon naturally. So yes, things will be unpredictable and wild and weird, and we have to get used to things again. All that 29th degree energy you see with the power axis too. Neptune naturally. Neptune in perfect opposition to the moon. Well, I leave it at this. Let's look and see and be ready within and without for something of a magnitude unknown to this point, to us, to this I would say to people who are alive and at this time of in history. It will be something unprecedented, something totally out of the ordinary, and the future is positive. Let's keep that in mind. Wherever we go through that birth canal, and it will get eventually better, but we have to definitely go through the fire. Thank you for joining and listening. Please look at the description. There's always tons of information under there, and I'm always very happy to see someone making comments, and I love all your comments, I should say. So thank you, and if you like to support me, you will find the link for that as well. Have a wonderful time, enjoy the wild ride, enjoy the roller coaster.